I saw this M3GAN movie yesterday and have been gathering my thoughts on it ever since. I've also noticed that a lot of people are highly anticipating this thanks to the initial trailer that was released to market this. When I saw the trailer initially, I didn't think much of it. Then I got the opportunity to watch it yesterday and went in with zero expectations, and it actually turned out to be much better than what it probably should be. There were a lot of elements at work here that made this movie stand out. Because another series of movies that this is being compared to are the Child's Play movies, and the M3GAN character in particular is being compared to Chucky. So the premise is very simple. There's a little girl who loses her parents in a car crash. She goes to live with her aunt after experiencing this tragic loss. Now the aunt is a genius. She's a former college graduate who has built AI machines before and now works at a company that makes toys for children. Well, the company is in competition with Hasbro, which, as we know, it is the go-to company for interactive toys made for kids. The aunt has made a prototype named M3GAN that she hides from her boss because it's unfinished. The boss has to turn in something to the company's executives, and he's on a time crunch. So work isn't going well for the aunt, and back home, things aren't going well either. There's like a child services lady who stops by to do an evaluation check on the little girl to see if the aunt is a good fit to be her legal guardian. The kid is clearly not taking things well. And so the aunt decides to finish her prototype at home, and she makes M3GAN, this highly intelligent robot that's human-like and is capable of learning. But the way that the robot has been designed is that it has to be paired with the child. So as you can imagine, this creates a big problem, along with the fact that the aunt rushed the design and failed to put in safety features. This sets certain events in motion that leads to a very satisfying horror film, despite its cliches. So, as I already stated, the movie is very cliche. For anyone who has seen the Child's Play movies, the concept is very similar. However, this movie actually works because the characters are actually well written. The little girl in the movie, if it were any other film, she would have gotten on my nerves. But this movie goes out of its way to explain why she acts the way she does. Having lost both of her parents, it makes sense why she gains an attachment to this machine. The aunt was the second best character in the movie. She's one of those characters who is so smart that she basically has no kind of social circle. She doesn't have a boyfriend or any sort of intimate relationship. She's just very self-absorbed and is invested only into her career. She's not really fit to be a parent, but she wants to be there for her niece and fulfill this promise to her late sister that, she'll take care of this kid that she's not really qualified to take care of. There's a scene towards the beginning when the girl arrives at her aunt's house. She takes a ball off of a shelf. The ball is in a box unopened. The girl wants to play with the ball, but then the aunt quickly comes in the room and takes it from her, telling her that it's a collectible and that it's just meant to sit on a shelf for viewing. Like, that's the kind of maturity level this character has. I thought the dynamic between the little girl and her aunt, as simple as it is, was actually very carefully written. The best character in the movie, however, is M3GAN herself, as she should be since the damn movie is named after her. M3GAN is a fantastic character. She's especially a great horror villain. It's obvious very early on that M3GAN, despite having been created for a child, is far too advanced in AI to be safe for children. Bringing up another movie that this is most similar to is the failed 2019 reboot of Child's Play. In that movie, Chucky wasn't a serial killer whose soul ended up in a children's doll like the initial version of the character. Instead, in that movie, Chucky was an AI. He was an artificial intelligence. That's actually one of the main reasons why that movie failed. I made a video on the 2019 Chucky back when it came out, and I hated the shit out of that movie. The worst part about that movie was Chucky himself. M3GAN, in a nutshell, is basically a far better version of the 2019 Child's Play reboot. The thing about that Child's Play reboot is that Chucky is already an established character with several movies dating back decades. M3GAN is not. This is a new character that no one has seen, so the writers and the filmmakers are able to get away with more than what they tried to do with the Child's Play reboot. M3GAN as a character is a very cliched concept, but she's written in a way to where the concept feels authentic. Another thing that works is the character's design. The design of Chucky for that Child's Play reboot was horrible. I hated that redesign with a passion. The thing about M3GAN's design is that she appears like she could actually be a real girl until you look closer and realize that she's a machine. The design sits just on the border, a perfect balance between something being creepy and something being safe for children. It was like a perfect dichotomy between the two. Another thing I really like about this character is that she has some black comedy elements in certain scenes. The main one was shown in the trailer when she's dancing like a TikTok user. That only happens one time in the film, so it's not something that overstays its welcome, and it's very brief. It seemed like it was a last minute thing that was thrown in, which I read that it was just that. The director snuck that into the film at the last minute, and I didn't mind it when I saw it. When it comes to black comedy, that's the best kind of comedy to me, is a more adult, harsh, and dark humor. One of my favorite black comedy films of the last few years is Sorry to Bother You, which had a variety of well-written, perfectly timed jokes. Another film, one that came out last year and is actually my favorite movie that came out last year, is The Menu, which was another dark comedy, black comedy film that was very strong with the way it was written. M3GAN falls in line with those movies in certain areas, which I appreciated, but this is a true horror film first and foremost. As a horror film, M3GAN works much better than it should simply because the characters in the movie make sense. There is quite a bit of it that you could question, such as, why would this aunt be so irresponsible to create a highly sophisticated machine for a little girl, especially one that's experienced a tragedy? But because of the kind of character the aunt is, it works and helps elevate the concept to where you can accept it. There are going to be some naysayers with this movie because, the main characters are all women, but that's going to be an extreme minority. That didn't stop movies like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever from being successful. That didn't stop movies like Prey from being successful. So, yeah, I wouldn't really pay attention to those people who say that the movie sucks simply because, the main characters are all female. Whatever. A good movie is a good movie, regardless of the gender of the characters or anything of that nature. So when it comes to horror movies that was released over the last year, I think X is the most popular horror film that came out last year. I saw X and I didn't really care for it myself. The highest rated horror film that came out last year was Soft and Quiet, which that movie is not a movie made for children. That is not a family film. That's a very dark and grounded, realistic horror film. That's on a different level to what M3GAN is. This is definitely a horror film that was made for the family. If the trailer wasn't evident of that enough, this is a horror film that you could actually take, kids to and sit and enjoy it together. So it's very clear what kind of audience that they were going for. And basically, this movie feels like it was written for people who hated Child's Play 2019. And a lot of people, including myself, hated that film. M3GAN takes the same concept and does it far better. And it's a good time as a result.
That would protect a kid from ever feeling lonely or sad. This is M3GAN.
Hi, M3GAN. I'm Katie.